Hello, everyone. My name is Grant Twyman, and I'm the Equity and Inclusion Program Manager here at Clover Park School District down in Lakewood, Washington. I'm originally from the East Coast. I was born outside of West Philadelphia, went to school in Delaware. After undergrad, I moved around a bunch. I joined the Army and eventually landed here in Washington State. In the Pacific Northwest is where my wife and I have now made this a home away from home for us and our two kids. I've been working with Clover Park School District for the last few years. Part of it's been in a consultant role where we talk through strategically equity and inclusion at the board and administrative leadership team level. And then recently, I've been brought on full-time. It's been a little over a year now in a role that is designed to strategically oversee the implementation of equity and inclusion district-wide. It's been incredible work, and I usually explain the focus of my work in 4 different areas. The first is district. This includes work with the board of directors, district administrators, and support staff. School staff. This includes the educators in each building and in terms of professional development. Third, it's our students. And here we're talking about student voice, student self-advocacy, and empowerment. It's shifting power dynamics with adults and students. And lastly, families and communities. It's working collaboratively with our families and CBOs or community-based organizations with diverse cultural capital to support educator professional development and student success. And now that I shared the focus of my work, let me say this. I am not the equity police. My role is more of an internal consultant and force multiplier. I'm committed to equipping professional educators and district staff to do what's best for each student. So we created a video that explains how we conceptualize diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how it's critical to the mission here in Clover Park School District. I want to play a really brief clip on the concept of inclusion and why it's important to us. Check it out. Inclusion is about staff, students, families, and community members feeling seen, heard, welcomed, respected, safe, understood, valued, and celebrated. Inclusion is the result or impact of our commitments, practices, and policies. So it's not necessarily what we do. For example, an invitation to an event or meeting is not inclusion. We invite individuals or groups into our process, plans, and decisions to foster community and be collaborative. And if we do it right, the result is inclusion. When individuals or groups feel like they belong, their voice is valued, and their participation is essential to creating a thriving organization, that's inclusion. For organizational success, it is critical to pursue inclusion. To illustrate the value, I'd like to offer another scenario. Imagine the last building you walked into. When you entered the building, did you think to yourself, is this building wheelchair accessible? Most of us, and in reality, 98% of us, did not have that thought. Why do you think that is? The simple answer is this: because we're not in a wheelchair. It's not our reality, it's not our need. So if we're going to create a building that is suitable for diverse needs, who should we have at the table elevating and empowering their voice and their needs? The right answer? Individuals in wheelchairs. The same is true in our classrooms, schools, and departments. If we're going to create a space that suits each student, we must implement practices that allow us to achieve inclusion. Additionally, it is illegitimate to arbitrarily claim that our students, staff, families, and stakeholders feel seen, heard, celebrated, and respected. We must facilitate space that encourages them to define and communicate those realities. This can be achieved in many ways, like surveys, forums, or even small group listening sessions. Our final thought on this concept for now is that inclusion is not color blindness. Color blindness is the social concept that essentially asserts that race should not and does not matter. It implies that we are all the same, we're all treated the same, we all have the same opportunities, We all have the same resources, and race has no impact on how one is treated and has no impact on one's experience at any time. It is most frequently verbalized with statements like, "I don't see color. I just see people. The color of one's skin doesn't matter to me." Those statements seem noble, but a closer examination reveals those statements are not helpful in our pursuit of equity, inclusion, and cultural competence. If we don't see color, we are not going to see our students, whose skin color and race is deeply connected to their identity, dignity, heritage, family, and life experiences. The colorblind mentality misses an opportunity to embrace true diversity and celebrate its beauty. What is worse, the colorblind mentality cannot support students and staff when their skin color has resulted in negative or damaging encounters or experiences. One is automatically blind to their narrative and thus walled off from authentic connections and true community. For the last few decades that the concept of color blindness has been popularized, it has had no effect on reducing race-based prejudices, discrimination, and exclusionary practices. Scholars and social scientists have concluded that the colorblind notion has increased the wedge among communities of color and their white counterparts. In light of this reality, we are creating a district that truly sees our students in all their differences. Inclusion is, we see your skin color, your story is important, your voice matters. We are seeking to understand and become more sensitive and aware. Here in Clover Park School District, when we refer to our work around equity, inclusion, and educational justice, we always refer to it as a journey. And that's very specific. Part of it is to perish the thought that we ever arrive or we ever achieve our end state, right? It's a constant journey where we're always learning, we're always growing, we're always asking questions, we're always seeking to understand and be empathetic. And when we're in positions of power and when we have identities of privilege or even when we're part of the dominant culture, it's imperative that we be empathetic. That leads to advocacy, right? Our empathy should lead to advocacy. We recognize when we call it a journey, we're talking about a long process. And so sometimes we even use the phrase a marathon of sprints, which is an incredible picture to recognize and remember, yes, there's a long race, but we also have to be cognizant and acknowledge that there's immediate change that must happen right now. And we must have that conversation, that there are short bursts and short sprints where things need to change right away, and also recognize the long haul and the long process of change. Both have to happen, and we're on that journey.